Welcome to the David Pakman Show. I'm Benjamin Dixon filling in for David while he is in Los Angeles, preparing to appear on the Joe Rogan podcast. I think out of all of the intellectual dark web, Joe Rogan is the only show I'd go on and not instantly be adversarial. So I'm sure there's going to be a wonderful conversation between David and Joe. So be sure to check that out later on today. Speaking of today is my birthday. So if you want to do something for me, go to the Benjamin Dixon Show YouTube channel and subscribe. Let's get to the news. Donald Trump and his administration have demonstrated that they are willing to buck or to all out ignore the checks and balances that have been set forth by the Constitution. CNN reported yesterday that the administration instructed Hope Hicks, former assistant to the president, to not comply with requests from Congress to turn over documents to the House Judiciary. Also, this is just the latest in a series of events, in a series of outright refusal to comply with the checks and balances that would come from Congress or the judiciary. Last week, the Justice Department said that they would not turn over documents to a federal judge who requested the documents in the sentencing of Michael Flynn. We have Attorney General Barr, who refused to testify before the Senate, ignoring their subpoena. And so this is really just a very interesting time. Many people are considering it to be a constitutional crisis. I don't agree. I don't think it's a constitutional crisis because there's actually remedies to this problem. Congress has the ability to hold any of these people in contempt of Congress. The federal judiciary, any of the federal judges, rather, have the ability to hold people who do not comply with requests from the court or court orders. They have the ability to hold them in contempt of court. But if they don't do those things, that's where the problem comes in. That's where it becomes optional. A subpoena really doesn't mean anything if there's no enforcement behind it. And this is where I believe that our system is falling short, not because we don't have a solution to the problems that the Trump administration is presenting us. It's rather that we have people who are not really ready to institute or to carry out those solutions. So Congress does have the ability to remedy these things. But before we get into the remedy, the problem really is something that's significant to see. Forgive the alliteration there, but it's something to see in our lifetime, to see the president of the United States who not only personally challenges the judiciary on Twitter. Anytime there's a court ruling that he doesn't like, he goes on a tirade and he undermines the legitimacy of the judiciary in front of the entire nation and the entire world, for that matter. He does the same thing with Congress. He undermines the validity of Congress over and over and over again. And I was reading an article in the American Prospect, an opinion piece by Robert Wright, former Secretary of Labor Secretary for Bill Clinton. And he really just outlined it that the job of the president is to protect the institutions of the American institutions. And this is quite the opposite of what Donald Trump is doing. Donald Trump goes on his tirades, he goes on his temper tantrums, and he undermines the very institutions, and he undermines the Constitution that he took an oath to uphold. Not that any of that matters to Donald Trump, nor does any of that matter to Donald Trump supporters, because they have already demonstrated that they are willing to go with Donald Trump no matter how far it takes them. There was one video that I think we've covered on this show where a supporter of Donald Trump said that she never thought that she would want a dictator, but if she ever gets a dictator, she wants it to be Donald Trump. Now, that's just one example, but if you're really thinking about it, what can Donald Trump actually do to lose trust amongst his most ardent supporters? I mean, he literally is betraying the Constitution every day. And for people who swear they are so concerned about American patriotism, they're so concerned about upholding the Constitution, they feel like they're originalists, or they're going to interpret the Constitution in an originalist fashion. You would think that this would set off an alarm for them. But Republicans have demonstrated that they are absolutely willing to just be quiet about the president of the United States, ignoring the checks and balances, and not just the president. Mind you, it's the president and his administration intentionally ignoring the checks and balances that are put forth or set forth in the Constitution, as well as every day or anytime the president is upset with Congress or with a judge, he actively undermines that institution, those institutions. And so that's the problem. And we're thinking, and there's conversations, there's think pieces of whether or not this is a constitutional crisis, but it's not really a constitutional crisis until you attempt to use the remedies in the Constitution, and then those remedies are not actually recognized, or they're not actual remedies. For instance, if you hold William Barr in contempt of Congress, right, and he refuses, or there is an attempt to refuse to be arrested and held in contempt, then you have a problem, right? Or if the president of the United States ignores, the president of the United States ignoring the norms and the institutions is one thing. And what I mean by norms and institutions, I mean they're traditions that are just as important or more easily recognized, like the decorum, the ability to respect the decision of Congress, even though you don't like the decision of Congress, the peaceful transition of power. Those things are like institutional norms. Those are things that America does just out of habit. And those are the things that Donald Trump is really undermining, in addition to the actual Constitution. But the decorum part is not a constitutional crisis. It becomes a constitutional crisis when Congress attempts to use the tools at their disposal to put Donald Trump in check, and he ignores them. Well, he can't really ignore an impeachment process, right? He can't really ignore an impeachment inquiry. And those are some of the tools that they have at their disposal. But if Congress never uses them, then the president of the United States is able to carry on without any repercussions for ignoring the checks and balances that are set forth in the Constitution.